Welcome back to the Huddle on High Street, episode 2 at this point. And a lot to talk about today, a lot that I wanted to get into. And the number one thing that I wanted to go into is on Tuesday, obviously, a lot of players made announcements that they'd be playing in this bowl game. You had guys like Denzel Burke said he's going to play, Emeka Buka said he's going to play. No word officially from Travion Henderson, but from everything I'm hearing, he's going to play too. He might even be staying for another year, which is crazy. Several other players are talking about it, playing in this game. I think Cody Simon was there. Jack Sawyer is going to play in this game. I think the two biggest surprising factors were that Denzel Burke and Emeka Buka said they were two guys that are going to the draft. But they wanted to play one more game at OSU, and I don't blame them. I mean, if you really think about it, they haven't done a lot of winning here. Mbuka did play in the Rose Bowl. So the only thing that class has won is the Rose Bowl. No gold pants, no Big Ten championships, no national championships, obviously. Like I said, with the no gold pants, haven't beaten Michigan. So they haven't won a lot. And I think they're going to this Cotton Bowl and they're like, might as well leave it all out there one last time. Because, I feel like these players, you can tell they really wanted to win that game. And I think that a lot of, they don't want to be remembered as kind of just quitting on the last game. Even though I'm one of those people that's like, you know what, just if you're going to the draft, especially these guys who, it's not as secure as like Marvin Harrison Jr., if you don't want to risk the injury to play in this Cotton Bowl that really, quite frankly, doesn't matter. It's still a New Year's Six Bowl, but quite frankly, doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things towards a national championship or even what the Cotton Bowl used to be. You don't want to risk an injury. You don't want to risk getting hurt. But, that took a lot. I mean, that changes perspective on people. So, I mean, I think it's great that they're coming in. They're going to play. And then I kind of wanted to get into Devin Brown. Obviously, he had a long press conference that they did. And seeing from what I was hearing from him is he didn't really know about the Kyle McCord stuff. But he seems he seems pretty locked in. And he's going to play this game. And the only thing that I can, stress at this point is he better play if he expects to be the starter next year. Just from what I think personally, it's got to be a lights out game. It obviously has to be a win, but it's got to be he's got to be doing stuff where I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable with him being the guy next year. Like Stroud in the Rose Bowl game, I think people were still we were decided that he was going to be there the next year. But in that Rose Bowl game, he really took off to a new level where we were like, okay, like this could be, we could be the favorites to win the national championship next year. He should be the favorite to win the Heisman next year. That Rose Bowl kind of set him apart. With Devin Brown, if he can have a game like that, obviously, I mean, maybe you don't have to get a transfer quarterback, but if he looks shaky out there, if he looks like he looked, in some of these early he never really got the shot to play, but the thing that scares me about Devin Brown at this point, in terms of making him the starter for next year, is that he wasn't even able to win the job this previous year. So that kind of alarms me a little bit that he wasn't able to, earn the position as the starter over Kyle McCord. And Kyle McCord obviously already transferred out, shaky, missed throws. And I think that if you're Devin Brown, you got to have a big bowl game. Or we got to bring it, or OSU has to bring in a transfer quarterback. It's just, as much as it looks like Ryan Day wants to stay in-house with Devin Brown, something's going to have to be seen in this game. It's going to have to be a really good performance from Devin Brown to be like, oh yeah, that's the guy for next year. Because he can't afford to have a really shaky year next year. Can't really afford to lose to Michigan next year. It's going to be teetering. I mean, like, if that's a bad game too, you stack up another loss in a bowl game, and it's Ryan Day. I mean, like I said, He's going to be there next year. I'm fine with it. But we got to see improvement at some point. And if Devin Brown goes out there and lays an egg against Missouri, then I just don't know how you can trot out with that quarterback and not get crazy backlash. He will get it from me, and I'm sure he will get it from a lot of other analysts. That if Devin Brown does not look convincing in that bowl game, and he does not go for a transfer quarterback, and he trots out Devin Brown after coming off a shaky bowl performance, it is not going to go well. It is not going to go well for his career. So, I mean, that's something, I'm keeping an open mind for it, obviously, where there's a possibility that obviously he could come in and wow us. I mean, it's not impossible. I always thought, even from when the competition was announced, I always thought there was a little something in Devin Brown. I don't think that he's got a much higher upside than McCord. And I did want to kind of get into that. What is the legacy at this point of a guy like Kyle McCord? And, to be honest with you guys, he is, in my memory of being an Ohio State fan, I don't think I've ever been more just disgusted with one of our quarterbacks before. I don't, it's not the fact that it's just the way that he acted in the season, and something about it. There was something that always, I just was not a Kyle McCord guy from the start. And that's just how it was. But just in my recent memory of just quarterbacks that we've had here, I can't remember one that I've disliked more. Maybe that's different for you. Maybe there's somebody else out there, but I'm glad that we got him out. Devin Brown, I haven't had that feeling with. We'll see how he plays in the bowl game at this point. But, I mean, it's all up in the air at this point. We don't really know what they're doing. Cam Ward was a guy that at this point kind of was taking the lead in the kind of like notice on transfer portal like rankings or whatever on who we were possibly going to bring in. And now he's visiting Miami, which I believe is today. And a lot of people think he's going to go to Miami, guys. So it'd be kind of rough, but at the same time, if you really look at Cam Ward, I don't know if he is exactly the guy for Day's offense. I would like him in the offense, but I don't think he's a guy that Day would. It's tough because Cam Ward is more so a Fields than like a Stroud. It's more, you could maybe even call it a hybrid of the two. So. Yeah, he's a hybrid between the two, so I guess it could be a good fit. And, I'd like to see it happen, but he's obviously looking at Miami. So, and it looks like they're not making a decision until after this bowl game with Devin Brown. So, we're going to have to wait and see at this point what's going to happen within the whole transfer game and all this. Guys that are still out there, Dante Moore is still out there. He's going to be out there for a bit. There's Will Howard, who I think Will Howard he's in talks with quite a few teams, but I mean you would have to think if OSU gave him an offer, which I don't think we will, you would go Will Howard. But I think Dante Moore is a pretty decent quarterback. If he can be, it wouldn't really take that much development, I don't think. He's already got snaps out there. Fields was an instant success. After seeing the receiving core that we're going to have next year, assuming that we're able to keep Jeremiah Smith, I don't think it's good. This Jeremiah Smith guy that we're bringing in is an all-timer, guys. An all-timer. One of the best. It's some of the best high school tape I've ever seen from a receiver. It's just like I was reacting to it the other day with this guy. There's a reason he's the number one overall player in the country. I didn't see one flaw. I know it's the tape that they do with high school players. It's a big, pile of just like their best clips. I get it, but every box was checked. I mean, it looked like his decision-making, ability to improv routes when he needs to, making decisions on the fly is what I mean. It's just it's an A. Obviously his catching ability, his speed. There's even a clip of him blocking a guy like 10 feet off the ball. Like the snaps right here, and he blocks him. The touchdown's going this way. He's blocking this guy there. So it's all great signs. That shows the demeanor's up there too. So I don't think I've ever seen a prospect that appears on tape that sound with a game. So that's going to be a huge weapon that any quarterback is going to be able to adapt to. You just got to get them the ball at that point. And if you could, like, that's the thing. If Kyle McCord had any mobility at all, it would have opened up everything. No one would have been able to stop the OSU. They would have scored this year. It would have been like, there would have been no reason why 40 plus a game wouldn't be able to happen every game. But obviously, he had no mobility at all, which is sometimes a day thing. I mean, he would limit Stroud running. But still, I mean, sometimes you need mobility when your offense is struggling and you need to open up the passing game. The crazy thing is, even with his lack of mobility, the passing game was still open. He just missed throws. So it's a rough situation, but whoever we do decide to bring in at quarterback the next year, you would just have to think with the receiving core. You got Carnell Tate's going to be there too. Yeah, especially if Travion Henderson is staying like everybody is predicting. You got a team there. I mean, without question, you got an offensive team there. The O-line's only going to get better. There will be questions at defense, but I think it's a bright year next year if you get the quarterback right. You got to get the quarterback right. That's going to be priority number one, just to do that. I wanted to get into Florida State. So apparently they're suing the like college football playoff committee, college, like they're trying to sue because they thought they got wrongly done. You know, I came on here like 2 days after it happened, or maybe the day it happened. I forgot when I made that video. And I said, I think the decision was made properly. Florida State looked like garbage in their last 3 games especially their last 2, without Jordan Travis. They looked really rough. And especially in that terrible, dreadful ACC championship game where if you watched it, you know what I'm talking about. They looked terrible. And I thought that the committee made the right decision. They would have gotten blown out. They would have gotten absolutely blown out in the college football playoff against any of those teams. I like Penn State would have blown them out easily. You could say what you want about their defense. The reason that they were, and remember, they were shaky even when they had Jordan Travis. Without him, it was just a mess. And the fact that you're sitting there, you're suing over him, it's crybaby stuff. It's like crybaby, like, oh, I didn't get my way stuff. And before there's any pushback, it's like, I understand you went undefeated, but they factor the circumstances. It's something that they factor in the ranking. What are you going to do? You're going to leave out a one-loss Alabama team who just beat 29 straight win Georgia? Are you out of your mind? No, they're not going to do that. They already did enough by not putting Georgia in, which they were shaky all year too, but still. But now, if I'm Florida State, this is not the way that I respond to this. The way that I respond to this, if I'm Florida State, if you think that you're so good and you deserve to be in the college football playoff, train like hell, beat Georgia by 20 points, or just beat them in general. And then if you want to have a frenzy after beating Georgia, go ahead. If you go into that game against Georgia and you just blow the doors off of them, and if you want to be mad after that, fine. But they haven't showed anything. All they've shown is the fight. They're talking about a lot of players that will refuse to play. First, Florida State was talking about refusing to play in that game. It's just like, you didn't get your way. You didn't get into some committee. And, they can still claim a national championship, which from what I'm seeing, they have an easier road to a national championship than they would have had. You just got to win one game, and then you can claim it in one of the polls. So, and by the way, if they lose to Georgia, everybody that watches this video will be paid a certain amount of money. That is how confident I am that Florida State will, if they beat Georgia, I guarantee Georgia beats them, and I think it's by a big amount, big amount, because it's just, you have all this noise and you have that going on. It's some of the most, like, if I'm Georgia too, if I'm the Kirby Smart, I'm hyping them up with this. I'm like, they don't want to play you guys, and like, Georgia's got to be bummed out too. But I mean, let's see where we are right now. Move on, do the game. You don't have to sue a committee that obviously made the right decision. And it was a tough decision, but it was the decision they had to make. They shouldn't be shamed for that decision. They should be praised for that decision. To go out and do that, it takes a lot of guts, because you're getting pushback from idiots like this. It takes guts. And I think that it was the right call, 100%. I side with that committee. And I that's just what it is. And then I did want to get into, lastly, I did want to get into college football playoff picks that I possibly have for who's going to win in those games. And I think we got two great games. I mean, I think we got Alabama and Michigan, and then we got obviously Washington and Texas. I've went back and forth on it. I think I probably chimed in on this in the last video too, and I've gone back and forth on it. And I actually think Washington beats Texas, and I think Alabama beats Michigan. So I have Alabama. I think I had Texas before. I don't see it anymore. I just think that if you go back at their schedule, they had some shaky games this year, games that they probably should have lost. I think Texas is decent. I don't see them winning the national championship, and easily it could flip. I mean, Michigan could beat Alabama. Michigan's probably the most talented out of these teams. From what I see, they're probably the most talented out of these teams. But I think Alabama, Michigan, we know their track record in bowl games. I think Alabama can beat them. Because especially as an Ohio State fan, it's going to be really tough to watch Michigan hoist up that trophy knowing that we should have beat them. But yeah, that's all we got for this episode. Huddle on High Street 2. Just going over pretty much the Cotton Bowl, where it stands, who's opting in. But still no word on Marvin Harrison Jr. It seems like we have more of an idea on Travion Henderson. And Florida State has lost a lot of respect in my book.